Well, hello, my name is Rick Adams. You are watching Customer Success Rants and Musings with myself, and the episode we're on is episode 22. My customer is making a poor decision. So what are we going to do about that? Because it can be difficult, can't it? And we are often trained with that expression that's very familiar to us all. The customer is always right. Now, of course, the customer is not always right. We all know that the customer is not always right. So I would change that slightly. So in my head, whenever somebody says the customer is always right, what I understand them to really mean is the customer is always important. Okay, so that is true to me, that latter, the customer is not always right, but they are always important. They're the customer, they're paying everybody, regardless of whether we sell customer success as a separate line item on the bill or whether it's free. Yeah, the customer is paying for it. So they are always important. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to show that we respect that. So we've got to listen very carefully and make sure we really understand what their criteria is for their decision and what they are deciding and how they're deciding it, and show some empathy towards that, not be dismissive towards it. Now, we might have a very good reason for knowing why it's a poor decision, but our first step is not to just cut in. We want to make sure that we empathize, that we show that we empathize and that we've listened. Okay, so active listening, for example, there's an episode on that further back in the series, might help there. And then present your alternative for consideration. So you're not overruling them, you're coming up with an alternative. So that is certainly one way that we could deal with the situation. I would like to propose an alternative way for your consideration. And then perhaps we could weigh the two up together and see whether one is better than the other. So my alternative is, and then that gives you an opportunity where you're not like going head to head against them. You're providing alternatives for consideration rather than you're overruling them or making them look stupid or whatever, and any loss of face, all those sorts of considerations. So present your alternative as an alternative for consideration. Focus on the outcomes. So make sure that you are clear on what the objectives are and then state them. Going back to the objectives, remember that what we need to achieve is we need to achieve X, this amount of X by this time. We need to achieve this amount of Y by this time. Remember what is it, how much of it is it, and by when do we need it are three aspects of any outcome that we define. So make sure that we're clear on that. And then we provide some data, some evidence as to why the alternative that we are producing, we are showing, would actually produce the outcomes better than the alternative that they are suggesting. So we want to work on data, not on opinion, but on data. So it's not an opinion, it's just here's the data. For them to then, they are the ones, they're the decision maker. Remember, the customer's not always right, they are important. They're the ultimate decision maker. Okay, so we're putting power back into their hands. We're not overruling them with our decision. We're giving them alternatives to consider for them to make the decision with the evidence. Here are the outcomes. Here's my alternative. Here is the data that I've used to determine what I believe is the best way forwards. And here's the evidence for it. And if you can, maybe also like a case study, that's the proof of outcomes. Yeah, so maybe if we've done this before, then we can show, for example, with customer A, we had a similar problem to you. It was like this. What we did was A, B, C, and D. It took us this amount of time, but the results were E, F, and G. So again, maybe some sort of physical proof would be really useful as well at this point. So there we go. Just some thoughts in terms of, rather than going head to head with the customer, maybe providing a more comfortable way of talking about an alternative for consideration, focusing on the outcomes, focusing on data as evidence rather than focusing on opinions. That's for them, not for us. We're not going to hold opinions. We're the guide. They're the decision maker. To provide the proof, provide the evidence, and then it's in their hands to make the decision. So there we are. That's it for our Rants and Musings today. I hope you enjoyed that. Please do subscribe if you wish to do so. Grab my chapter 1 of my book if you're interested in that. And I look forward very much to speaking to you in future episodes of Rants and Musings. Bye-bye for now.